Hi, I'm Linda and this is Hutton's Valley Permaculture. It's autumn here and my pumpkins are mostly ready to harvest. In today's video, I'll harvest what we can. I'll also be checking out my trellises, which I've built from recycled materials, and see how well they've been holding up these pumpkins. I'm going to start off the video by just discussing the different varieties I've got going. I've got here Turk's Turban, which is the first time I've grown this. It's a beautiful bright orange colour, although as you'll see later I do have another Turk's Turban that's quite a pale orange in comparison. What I love about these pumpkins is the bottom of them gets really varied in colour. It's got green and sort of light stripes on it, and each pumpkin seems to vary. The next variety I've grown, also for the first time this season, is the Aussie Butter Pumpkin. Now the size is a lot bigger than I expected from when I first planted it, and these ones are just the small one. When we come to harvest, I'll show you the biggest ones that I've got in the garden. Next to the Aussie Butter Pumpkin, we've got the Jap Pumpkin. Now these plants growing on this trellis didn't seem to do that great compared to their neighbours, but we still managed to get a couple of pumpkins, some that looks like Jap pumpkins and some that turned out looking rather like a butternut pumpkin. So those seeds were probably crossed because I didn't plant any butternut this season. In this area of the garden where I often run my chickens through during winter, I'll throw in a few pumpkin seeds. Now I put in some Jap pumpkin, I might have put in a Turk's Turban pumpkin as well. I had a volunteer, and I also had some seeds that I saved from last year, and I can't work out quite what they are. The Jap pumpkin plant that I planted in this area seemed to do quite well, and it produced really long pumpkins compared to the ones on the trellis, which are kind of a lot more squat and wider. And there's quite a few dotted around the garden, now sort of being hidden amongst the grass. The volunteer plant that I had in this area didn't do anywhere near as good as the Jap plant. It's produced, I think, only this one pumpkin, and it kind of has the appearance of a buttercup pumpkin, but I'm pretty sure it's probably crossed with something else. But maybe it's done better than we think. Just spotted a second pumpkin here. So who knows what else this grass might hold. Further along the garden, away from the Jap and that volunteer, we have plants that I've planted. Now, I get a sense that they haven't really grown a lot. I've spotted a couple of pumpkins, including the little Turk's Turban. I can't see another one of those hiding in here, but I do have this, what looks like a buttercup, sneaking over the bean trellis from the plants beyond. And just further along are some of those baby little pumpkins. They're just really tiny. They're quite cute actually. But I had planted Jarrahdale and Buttercup last year, and I think that's probably a bit of a cross of those two. So we've got sort of 4 or 5 of those little pumpkins, I think. And none of them have got very big. Before we get into the excitement of the pumpkin harvest, I thought we could have a look at these trellises and see how well they've been holding up these pumpkins. I made them about 5 or 6 months ago from recycled materials that I'd gathered around the farm. I will leave a link to that video in the description and just up here. First one is an old ladder. Now it was rotting in some parts, and I did have to chop out bits and kind of reconstruct it a little bit. And I've held it up so it didn't blow down in the wind, just with a couple of steel posts which I've attached to the wood. And this trellis has really stood up to wind very well. Something else that it stood up to really well is the weight of 5 massive pumpkins. My plan was not to hold them up with some sort of stocking or anything, but just sort of let them grow and see if they could hold their own weight, and also just see if this structure was strong enough to hold them. And it's done an amazing job, and the plants were able to just hold themselves up as well. These two on this side seem to be kind of sitting on the steps a bit, but the ones underneath them are holding themselves up beautifully. The pumpkin plant in its heyday did grow right up here, but sort of shrunk down with the cooling and dry weather we've been having, and it is finishing off. But it did spread around through summer throughout the garden. It has grown 5 big pumpkins just on the trellis here, so I really could have cut off the extra growth and contained it in this space really well and got plenty of food. But I'm really pleased that I let it spread, because you'll see the biggest pumpkin that's growing in my garden just over here. Hiding in my dried out corn patch is the biggest pumpkin in my garden. Now, I'm not sure how big butter pumpkins are supposed to get, but this one is huge. We'll definitely be weighing this one at the end after we've harvested it. The trellis that I grew the Jap pumpkins on was not really challenged like the butter pumpkin. In the end, there's only sort of 3 pumpkins growing on this frame, and they're not very large, so it really wasn't challenged, which was good because I was kind of suspecting this one wouldn't hold up to the weight. But it's held up what it's grown, so it has been successful. And again, they were able to hold themselves up beautifully without any of my assistance. And like the butter pumpkin, these pumpkin plants just escaped the trellis they were on and took off across the garden, and have produced a number of other plants which we'll be able to harvest today as well. Plenty of space in my garden for things to take off. It just makes it all that more exciting. In my trellis video, I built 6 trellises, including putting this frame up for my beans. But turns out that it's also a pumpkin growing trellis, with the pumpkins escaping from my other 2 trellises across the top of this, and it's resulted in one of the Turk's turbans hanging off this frame. Again, that pumpkin's held itself up with no extra assistance other than its own vines. My arched trellis was the 3rd trellis that I've grown pumpkins on, and it hasn't moved a bit since being built. I started off growing snow peas right through the middle on the gate part of the trellis, and they did really well, but died off, which left it free to grow all of these beautiful orange pumpkins. Some of them did get stuck in the trellis, and I did make an attempt to cut that one out, but as you can see, I didn't make a great attempt, but I will try to get that out today. Definitely be using that one first in the kitchen though. So again, this structure has held up these pumpkins really well. It took the weight beautifully. The pumpkins didn't need support, and they've successfully grown across here. Now, I have had the plant escaping with a number of pumpkins growing on the ground, but mostly they've grown up and around this structure, although they could have just been contained to it. If you're limited for space in your garden and think you don't have enough room for pumpkins, consider growing some of these trellises. As you can see, they don't have to be too elaborate, and they're going to hold up the weight of your pumpkins. What you can do is trim any of the plants that are sort of taking off beyond your structure, and you still might get plenty of food at the end of the day to keep you and your family happy. Now we can move on to the exciting part, and that is the harvest. If you have a look at this pumpkin, you can see all the little tendrils have dried up, and that's a bit of a sign that these pumpkins are ready to harvest. The whole vine here has dried up, so yeah, we can put this inside and kind of get it protected from the rats and the environment. So I think we'll start with this guy here. Now I usually sort of trim, oh gosh, it's heavy. Oh, because there's another pumpkin pulling it down as well. I forgot about that. I'll just trim off all the leaves. And, oh, that's actually really solid. The weight of this one dragged everything down. Okay, so that's our first pumpkin. Look at the bottom of that. It's just beautiful. And I believe they're quite a tasty pumpkin too. I'll grab this one next. There's a couple of cute little ones. Just brush all the dirt off them. Now we come to these two, which are more challenging to harvest. I'm hoping this one will just pull out of the trellis, but I definitely will have to cut this one out, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, it's not looking promising. Oh, oh, that wasn't so bad. It does have a bit of a mark across it, but it's kind of not broken through the skin. And it might have a little bit on that side. We'll just have to put that one into the be used really soon category. Now this one is not going to be as simple. You can see I've already hacked away at it and it's kind of repaired its scar a little bit. We're just going to have to hack it some more. And this one will definitely head to the kitchen for use straight away. Probably something better I could be using, but anyway, I had a bread knife handy. It's not looking too flush in there. Maybe when I did cut it before, it's kind of got some disease or some insects into that wound. Now, can we push this out? Yes, we can. Oh. Yeah, definitely some little buglies have got in here, but I should be able to cut that out. And the rest of this pumpkin can be used for roasting or pumpkin soup or anything that you want to do with pumpkin. A bit sad now with all that colour gone from the trellis. Those pumpkins did look amazing, but we've got a good load of bright orange Turk's turban. Let's head off and we'll get those other lighter colour Turk's turbans. The other two Turk's turban, we've got one here and one on the other side of the bean trellis. We'll start with this one. At the start of the video, I suggested that not all of my pumpkins were ready to harvest, and it might be the case with this little pumpkin here. If you have a look here, all its little tendrils are still quite green, and the plant is still lush, although it is starting to get some powdery mildew on it. So what I might do is just leave this to grow on a little bit more, and I'll wait until these tendrils just dry off, just to make sure that the pumpkin is truly ripe and ready to go. If you have a look here, you can see they are well and truly all dried up, so the pumpkin is fully ripe. Double check of this pumpkin that's hanging up does reveal that its tendrils in here, well, there's a mass of tendrils, but I think these ones, they're still quite green. So perhaps our lighter colour Turk's turbans might have to wait for another day. We've got the Aussie butter trellis just behind us here, so let's check out those ones next. And you can see there, all those tendrils are really drying off. And as we saw before, the plant is withering and drying up. So we're going to be grabbing these big boys next. I'm going to harvest this top pumpkin first in case by cutting this it affects some of the lower pumpkins and they drop to the ground. They won't have as far to fall as this guy would. Oh, and that's a heavy pumpkin. Still quite a green colour on the bottom. I'm not really familiar with these pumpkins, but that is a beautiful specimen. I'll just sneak through the garden here. Oh, I think we're going to be overloaded in this trolley before long. I have to be ready for the weight of this when I cut it. Lucky it's got the step of the trellis that I can rest it on to grab it out. Next, I'll grab this one down the bottom, which is huge. Oh. I don't know if we'll be able to wheel this trolley by the end. Maybe I'll just make a display alongside the trolley and I'll worry about moving them all once I've got them all harvested. Ooh. Okay. Oh gosh, another massive pumpkin. Okay, just one more buttercup to do and it's the big one. This one is sitting on the ground, so at least I don't have to support its weight. The tendrils are drying off, so that's good. Wow. Whoa. Look at that guy. Huge. With the lovely green bottom part as well. I don't even know how you'd cut into that. That has to be the biggest pumpkin I've ever grown. Oh. Definitely be getting the scales onto that one to see what it weighs. Now to grab my Jap pumpkins and the buttercup pumpkin as well. Here's one, 2, 3, 4 is not really ready yet. It's still got quite green tendrils, so I'll leave that. You can see that one down there. It's really green and it does look quite a light colour pumpkin. It has got this split around it, so I don't know how long it will go for, but I'll leave it for the moment. We'll get on to the next one. Next one hiding in the garden is just in the middle of the path here. That's a good sized pumpkin. In amongst the beans and the sweet potato, I've got another buttercup pumpkin. Just snap it off there. These ones are a great storing pumpkin. And we've got a little baby to add. And one more buttercup looking pumpkin. That's the Jap, or the Jap crosses that grew from my seeds planted along on that trellis. Now let's see how the Jap did in the rest of the garden. I'll make a start with this very end pumpkin here and we'll just check it. Well, actually, the tendrils are just starting to brown off, so I think that'll be fine to take. It's a beautiful long pumpkin. A bit fatter, that one. And this one's a bit smaller. Don't you just love the variety of all these different vegetables? somewhere in here we have another pumpkin. Oh, it's not a Jap. Well, actually, it is a Jap and a volunteer pumpkin. Oh, this is a big one. Gosh, you just never know what the grass is hiding. Okay, that's a nice Jap, and we might as well take this volunteer while we're here. And if it's like a buttercup, that'll be delicious. Getting quite a display of pumpkins over here. Yeah, sometimes in this area, I just kind of move the chickens in and let them decide if there's any more pumpkins growing. Just wander around and see what you stand on. Oh, here's someone. Oh, another volunteer. Just a little one. And I've just noticed hiding over here is another Jap. Our pumpkin harvest is mostly done now. It just kind of leaves these mini little pumpkins, whatever variety they are. They are definitely a cross. So let's have a look at their tendrils and I'll just see. Yeah, they're actually not quite dried off, and I'm happy to actually leave these growing on a little bit longer. These plants I added into the garden just as an afterthought, that and the other Turk's turban that's over there. And being younger plants, the fruit isn't as developed as the other pumpkins in the garden, and the plants are still looking pretty good, so I don't think these are ready for harvest just yet. But there's actually loads of these in this garden. They're hiding everywhere. What an amazing harvest, with still more to come. I'd like to thank my trellises for holding these pumpkins up so well during the season and getting them to harvest. If you'd like to see what this big boy weighs, make sure you wait to the end of the video. What I'm going to do with these now is get them into my carport. I'm going to be building a little sort of shelf system with some protection over them so that the mice and rats don't get to them. Last year I had them in a little construction down the end of the house, but I found that it just got too hot in there. So the carport is at the coolest end of the house, and I think I can protect them the best there, as long as they're protected from the rats and mice. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I certainly did. It's a bit like Christmas, stacking up all the little presents at the end. It's so colourful. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Did you take a guess what this pumpkin weighs? Well, it's weighed in at 13.78 kilos, which is also 30.3 pounds. So a pretty good size for an Australian butter pumpkin. Turns out there were 5 more pumpkins hiding in this garden. Who knows if we've found them all just yet.